Senator, good to have you back on the program.
It's great to be with you, David. Thank you.
Senator, you have been very close to the president for many years. Are you on the same page as Donald Trump when it comes to tariffs against Canadian goods?
Well, at this point, I like where we all are, is assuming that we can get to a long-term resolution that's similar to what we have right now. The 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum are a little bit concerning to me, to say the least. But I think with the rest of it, we can get to a place that's mutually beneficial.
Yeah, I do want to talk about steel and aluminum, but before we get to that, if we just get overarching, do you have any information that suggests we actually are close to a deal, that Friday's deadline is viable?
Well, I think in all likelihood, David, that Friday's deadline may come and go. My hope is, and what I'm encouraging the president to do, is to not issue any new tariffs, any 35% or anything like that, but rather extend the deadline if a deal isn't made. I think it's hard to put all of the onus on the other countries when we're deal making with so many at the same time. And I think he has that sense of fair play as well. For example, with Canada, the carve out for USMCA makes all of the sense in the world. And then applying some of that to non-USMCA things that are in high demand in the United States that are unique to Canada, such as potash, which, of course, in North Dakota we relate very closely to, and some energy products as well. Energy products, as you know, flow in and out between the two countries as though we are one country. So, I think that framework that's been in place now for a long time, I think extending that while negotiations continue is very realistic. Now, that said, we've seen how fast deals can come together, and we know that a lot of good people on both sides are working together on it. Our Trade Representative Jameson Greer is working closely with your ambassador, Kirsten Hillman, and your Trade Minister, LeBlanc. So things are happening, so it's possible, but I'm more concerned about the urgency of the moment and making sure that we do no harm while negotiations continue.
If it is just a question of more time is needed, how do you communicate that to the president, to the White House? Don't do anything on Friday, as you've threatened.
Well, I'm not going to advise him not to. I give him my position and my opinion, of course. He'll make the ultimate decision, obviously, and he's not one that gets pushed into things very easily either. So, but I think, to be honest with you, he's right now in a good place. Obviously, he's had some good victories. His recent trip, the trip he's on in the UK, is going quite well. The deal with the European Union's gone well. The deal with Japan has gone well. These are the big economies that he wants to do deals with. Of course, Secretary Bessent right now with negotiators from China, in Switzerland. So these things are going on at a time when I suspect in the president's mind he's not thinking a lot about Canada, but I do think he likes where we're positioned, and I don't see any reason for him to change anything abruptly right now, but rather encourage ongoing discussions. I also get the sense that there are some discussions coming very, very soon, sort of face-to-face discussions between the players, to include perhaps Secretary Lutnick and others that are very close to the president.
You say you get that sense. I mean, do you know of something?
Well, no. This is such a fluid situation that what I were to know right now may be different by tomorrow. In fact, so I don't know anything concrete. I'm just so you know, I'm sort of naturally optimistic, but I do get the sense in talking to folks close to the president and the president that he's in a good place and really should not be in a position, in my view anyway, to do anything that does any harm while so much good is going on.
You mentioned the deals with Japan and the EU. Those have 15% baseline tariffs. They seem like a bit of a boilerplate.
Yes.
Should Canada expect that on things that aren't enshrined under what we call CUSMA, what you call USMCA?
Yeah, so it's a great question, because I've wondered the same thing. I think the template It's going to be fairly universal. I mean, the way it looks to me, it might even be 20%, but it seems to be a modest range that has sort of become the price of doing business with the world's largest economy. It doesn't seem unreasonable to me either, by the way, particularly since we really haven't seen a lot of inflation as a result of it. What we have seen is a lot of new revenue as a result of it. So I get the sense, and why wouldn't you, that the president feels like that's become a victory. With regard to Canada, though, and I would argue this, David, to the president and to his team, Canada is special. While I don't think Canada should be the 51st state, I don't think Canada wants to be the 51st state. In many respects, they're already our first cousin. And the fact that our supply chains, our value chains are so integrated is a strategic decision made by investors throughout the years and the decades. There are some things that need to be tweaked. I don't think there's any question. I think the situation with dairy is untenable. The sort of protectionism around soft lumber is sort of untenable. But by and large, we have a solid relationship. Steel and aluminum is the exception to that, and we'll just have to see how all of that plays out. But I could argue, and probably would, that no tariff on Canada, no sort of boilerplate tariff on Canada makes a lot of sense, but I'm just one person.
I want to ask you about selling tariffs themselves to your constituents. I mean, I know the president says that tariffs are paid by the other country, but you and I know that that's actually not how it works, that a tariff is a tax that is going to be paid by American consumers or American businesses. Sometimes there have been instances where the exporter has absorbed the cost, but for the most part, it's Americans who are paying this. How do you sell this to people in North Dakota?
Well, actually, North Dakota is a pretty populist state. It was a long time ago. It was when Theodore Roosevelt lived there. It was when we built our own state elevator and state mill, our state bank. So we tend to protect ourselves from the big guys from Minneapolis, if you will. So we already are naturally built that way. But I think at a 15% level, David, that North Dakotans, like a lot of other Americans, are starting to see that this isn't really having much of an inflationary effect. I mean, in fact, it's helping our economy. It's reducing, it's generating more revenue for the priorities of our government, which has value to the American taxpayer. I'm not so sure that most North Dakotans see the tariff as something that they're paying, until such time as, of course, it gets to be a 35 or a 50% tariff or more, at which point, obviously, an exporter or another country is not going to pay that. At the same time, we have a lot of other countries that put a lot of tariffs on our stuff, and we have never retaliated. So this is a bit of I think in the president's mind, and I agree, this is a little bit of a justice move in this case. And frankly, again, it's to this point gone quite well, where stock markets are liking it, investors are liking it, countries are moving, onshoring much more of the supply chain than they were previously, in some respects, to avoid that tariff. I don't think there's any question the president wants to bring more industry into the United States that we've acquiesced to other countries in previous years with different policies.
In short, you think it works?
I'm sorry. It works? I think so.
Yep. All right. Senator, thank you very much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thanks, David.